Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's panel discussion on empowering primary school students in special education through innovative tech-based formative assessment and sub-strategies. My name is Kumudha Shankari, and I hold a bachelor's in psychology, and currently I'm pursuing a master's in teaching at ITU. I bring over 5 years of global experience as an educator, having taught in multiple countries. I have a great opportunity and honor of serving as a moderator for today's session. As a special need educator and advocate for inclusive teaching practice, and I'm deeply passionate about creating meaningful opportunities for all learners to succeed. In today's session, Bring Together, we will explore how innovative strategies and tools can empower discover learners through various strategies and more inclusive classroom. I invite you to listen, reflect, and engage as we navigate this important conversation. To start, let me introduce our amazing panelists for today's discussion. My first panelist, it's my pleasure to introduce our panelist, Claudia Polichet, an experienced educational technology specialist who has worked extensively with schools to integrate digital tools that support inclusive and accessible learning. Claudia has contributed to designing assistive tech programs, training teachers, developing accessibility frameworks, and has been a strong advocate for using technology to remove barriers for students with special needs. Today, Claudia will share insights on how inclusive formative assessment can be enhanced through assistive technology, offering both practical strategies and future directions. Please join me welcoming Ms. Claudia Polichet. And
Hi, thank
thank
you
you
for
so much.
having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining for today.
It's a
And my
pleasure.
second panelist, inclusive education expert. I'm delighted to introduce Anusi Chinadu, a passionate leader in inclusive education who has dedicated her career to creating a classroom where every learner feels valued and supported. With a background in special education teaching, teacher training, curriculum development, and doing IEPs, Anusi has made impactful contribution to community projects that promote equity in education. Today, Anusi will be addressing inclusive teaching practice that align with formative assessment and how educators can adapt assessments to meet diverse learning needs. Let us warmly welcome Anusi to share her expertise. Hi, Ms. Anusi.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Um, I work with the P-District School Board. My name is Chinedu Anazia, just like you mentioned, and I support special kids. In a very special way. Is a career that is very passionate. I'm very passionate doing this because I love to help kids and I love to help people in general. So I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so
And
much. It's really
thank you.
amazing. Yeah. And I'd like to ask you for turning on your videos if you can.
Oh, is it off?
Yeah,
Oh, so sorry about that.
that's okay. Yeah, I
Okay.
can see.
Can you see me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
my third panelist, who's a communication disorder therapist and an emerging leader, it's an honor to introduce Kriti Krishnan, a distinguished special education leader with years of experience in educational leadership program development and student advocacy. Kriti has led initiatives in special education program, staff training, policy advocacy, ensuring that schools are equipped to meet the diverse needs of learners. In today's discussion, Kriti will highlight system level strategies for implementing inclusive formative assessment with the support of assistive technology and how leadership plays a critical role in sustaining these practices. Please join me in welcoming Kriti to our panel.
Thank you, Ms. Kumudha. That's my pleasure.
Hi, Kriti. Thank you. So, yeah, as I mentioned, today's discussion is on primary classroom, especially in special education team. We often see students who have the ability but not always the right tools to demonstrate their learning, right? So I have experienced moments where traditional paper and tools like that to do their assessment. But these days, there is various tools to do the assessment, like technology-based formative assessment have opened many doors for them. So for example, one of my student with dyslexia, so she engaged more confident when I introduced the text to speech tool. Instead of being, held back by decoding struggles and all, so he could focus on showing his understanding and the consistent of, success in his changes. So I'm going to highlight few innovatives that ensure access to the assessment, not just the task. So when students see immediate feedback on their progress through innovative quizzes or learning apps, they feel very much motivated, and it transforms assessment, from something they can do on their own that creates their independent work. In my class, like there's a shy student who was struggling to, communicate or show their progress. It lit up when using the table-based quizzes. She could answer without any pressure or, speaking out loud. All those things grew up with confidence. So when you introduce those kind of tools, it automatically includes the differences. Talking about how tools can be adjusted, to multiple needs, like there's speech to text for non-writers, visual supports for students with autism, and some kind of interactive games for students who need more motivations. So these kind of technology always replace good teaching, but just not the enhances our ability or to personalize their assessments. And it reduces the anxiety, and it builds more confidence in their achievements. Students often, like, they fear being alone or try for new things. They always think that they go wrong when they in front of their peers. So these kind of gaming methods, or those platforms like digital portfolios, they allow the students to just take their safe steps in a safe way. It's just not the assessment, but it become less about grades and more about growth. So these are all the technologies that's introduced, and integrating tech wasn't always easy. It's like it's a both way. Even for the teachers during PD, like professional development, we always like, if there is any tools that's introduced in the board, we tend to understand and work towards collaborate with my colleagues, and then we introduce to the students. So it's basically like it's a teacher perspective also. It's very important, and collaboration with the you know those kind of strategies should be collaborated with the team, like parents and students themselves. They suggest what kind of tools they really want to help them the most, will take over to the next level. And from my classroom experience, I see how empowering primary students in special education require creativity, flexibility, and willingness to use these kind of technology, and it's meaningfully valued. Now, I would love to hear from our panelists on how they have seen innovative formative assessment strategies that transform their student learning.
All right, so I'll start with that. So I definitely think technology has given a lot of learners a voice, especially those learners who cannot articulate themselves expressively. So for example, I had a student who was very nonverbal, and when we gave her an AAC device, she actually was able to type out sentences. Like we give her an image of like a park, and like we would say like type what you see, and she was actually able to formulate sentences. And like before the device, teachers thought like she was not able to have those skills. So I feel like that AAC device, that tablet, was able to like enhance her skills and like show what she can do, because people thought she was not capable of doing those things, right? And in terms of like a engagement and data perspective, I find that when students are using technology, what you mentioned before, they are definitely more motivated. So I do work with a teenager. He's 14 years old. He is autistic. And I notice a difference. If I give him math questions on a worksheet, there's 10 questions. it takes him much longer because he's kind of like dreading it. It's a little bit boring for him. But when I
Yeah.
put those same questions on a Blooket, he is more motivated. He's like, I want to answer these questions. I want to go to the next like level. For him, it's like a game. It's like leveling up versus it being a test. So there's more motivation. And based on data, I'm getting more questions answered by him versus just on a worksheet. So you see that. And also, it's more, I feel like I don't have to provide as much prompts for him to move on because the technology is doing it that for you. Let's say in Blooket, if he gets something wrong, it kind of just grays it out and he has other options to choose from. So I don't have to be the one like, oh, that's wrong, try again. Like the computer is doing that for him, which builds more independence for him because he doesn't have to rely on a teacher prompting him all the time when he's like just going with the flow on the computer, which could also help him in the future because if he's doing work on the computer at school, he's more independent.
Exactly.
He can, know how to navigate all that versus always asking a teacher for help or moving on, right? So I definitely noticed
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
motivation, more engagement, less behaviors in terms of like I don't want to do this work, right? He feels like it's more fun. It's gamified, right? You can gamify the
Mhm.
work, right? And especially like
Yeah.
I don't have to be the one, oh, you did 5 questions. Okay, here's a reinforcement. Like his reinforcement, he has like a quick game in between 20 seconds and he gets to move on to the next, question. And
Yeah.
with this, like a lot of teachers might say, oh, well, what if they just guess the answers and like they don't really pay attention just to get to like the reinforcement in the game. But it's like there's a lot of games and Blokets where you can be strategic, where it's like you cannot
Mhm.
move on until you get the right question. So it's like if you get it right, if you try again, then you get to like the game. You can't just like guess and say no and like be able to play
Yeah.
the game, right? So they know like, oh, I actually have to pay attention. I can't just guess and choose whatever answer. I actually have to answer
Yeah.
it correctly for me to get that little game, that little incentive in between. So I definitely
Exactly.
find that being more like he was more motivated. And also just I think it's like the built-in repetition too. Like I feel
Mhm.
like when you repeat things on a worksheet, it gets redundant, it gets boring. But if you're repeating stuff on like a game, it's more fun, right? And it's like he's able to retain that information much more because he's like playing and interacting with it. And especially with students who are already like very good with technology and who love technology, I think it just brings more happiness to them because it's like I think like technology is something that like it helps them, right? It like
Mhm.
again like what you mentioned before, like I had a learner who was not able to like read coherently, like he would skip like words and he wasn't able to read, but I gave an option of like, okay, instead of you reading the question, instead of me the teacher reading the question, which is another prompt, why don't you just turn on the like volume and the computer can read it for you? And like
Exactly.
that's what we
Yeah.
were doing and it worked, right? Like
Yeah.
he was more independent. He's like, okay, I click the audio button and I'm listening to it and then I'm answering the question versus like the teacher always like reading it for you, which again it's building that being
Mhm.
independent and you get to choose like how you want to like listen to this, right? And not like it's just so much harder if you're like forcing them to read if they don't really have, if you know they have the skills to answer but not the skills to read, why would you like push them to
Yeah.
do something they
Yeah.
can't do and just
Yeah.
kind of modify their learning, right?
Yeah. Even in our class, like we have like students in mainstream, and they
Hmm.
feel sometimes when we provide the Chromebooks and the gamifying stuff, the autistic students feel like, excluded. When you are
Right.
like introducing these kind of tools, they feel so much included with the mainstream,
Yeah.
and it builds
Like,
more confidence in their own,
absolutely.
learning
Especially with
process.
Blooket. Like it's like I know a lot of teachers do like the whole classroom where it's like the student can also be engaged with it and not just like they view it as a fun thing as well. Definitely. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really interesting to, get to know. And yeah, so Miss Anuzi, what innovative tech-based tools or platforms have you seen that are particularly effective in empowering primary school students with special needs during formative assessment?
Well, thank you for the question. There's so many tools, but I'm just going to mention a few. We have the Kahoots and
Mhm.
quizzes, gamified quizzes platforms. These tools engage students with interactive quizzes using visual sounds and multiple choice formats. And it also
Mhm.
provides instant feedback, making learning fun and accessible for students with attention or processing difficulties. Most
Mhm.
of these students actually just like the first panelist shared, when you introduce the games, in a form of learning, they're very much engaged. So, for
Right.
example, in a grade 4, teacher created a Kahoot quiz on multiplication with
Mm-hmm.
images and read aloud features. A student with ADHD stayed engaged through the game format,
Yeah.
and teachers could see instantly which problems required reteaching. So these tools are very effective and very efficient in, helping the students to learn very quickly, and also makes it fun for them as well. So we
Mm-hmm.
also have the Seesaw digital portfolio platform, which allows students to record voice, draw, or upload photo videos of their learning. It also helps
Mm-hmm.
the teachers to access understanding in multiple modes, not just in writing. So we have
Yeah.
examples of a grade two inclusive in a grade two inclusive classroom, where a
Yeah.
student with dyslexia recorded themselves explain a science experiment using
Mm-hmm.
Seesaw voice feature instead of writing a lab report. The teacher used this as a formative check of understanding. It's quite interesting how these
Yeah.
tools can be very, very, very
Yeah.
effective in helping these students to learn, and also have fun while they're learning. And you see the times where they have those meltdowns reduces. See, look, I have a lot
Mm-hmm.
of students that when you introduce these fun tools that they can also learn from, they have those less time where they, you experience
Yeah.
them having those types of meltdown and then getting cranky. So
Yeah.
we have just quite a few as well that I would like to also share. So we have the Google Forms with
Mm-hmm.
accessibility add-ons,
Yeah.
customizable quizzes with text to text, text to
Mm-hmm.
speech, and large fonts and image support, which provides immediate scoring and progress tracking. These there are examples where a grade 5 teacher designed a reading comprehension quiz with images beside questions and enabled text to speech. And a student with low vision could listen to the text and answer independently while the teacher tracked responses in real time. You see how
Mm-hmm.
effective that can also be for our primary school students that that has special needs, that we can support these students and they can be they can have that fun time of learning. So we can also let students respond to formative questions using short videos, audio instead of text. It's
Mm-hmm.
also ideal for students with dyslexia, just like you shared earlier, communication disorders or
Yeah.
limited writing skills. So we have example of a grade 3, in a grade 3 history lesson class.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of writing about community helpers, a student with a community disorder used Flip to record a 30-second video explaining what a firefighter does, showing
Wow.
their comprehension in a non-written form.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do very well with these tools, and also it helps their learning. So I
Mm-hmm.
have more to share as to the different kind of text-based tools that these kids can use to help them and support them in their learning. So we have
Sure.
the Clock Kick real-time feedback tool, where
Mm-hmm.
students can work on their assignment digitally while teachers see their work live. It
Mm-hmm.
also enables teachers to provide instant feedback, voice comments, and stickers. So there's an example of a grade 1 class where a student solved addition problems on iPads. The teachers saw their work life on Class Kick, and a
Yeah.
student with autism received smiley stickers feedback instantly when solving the problem correctly, which motivated him to continue. And also, these tools also helps, even the students that are also in the classroom, they're also interested in also being part of, using these tools, and it's also very good for them as well to help them with their learning.
Yeah.
There are so many more that I can as well share. So we have the Nearport interactive lesson platform, which
Exactly. That's
embeds.
one of the important tool, like the kids really enjoyed it because I remember like last year I was introducing mathematic concepts for multiplication and I
Okay.
printed like so much of, printouts to practice. But when I got to the classroom, like nobody was interested in doing worksheet with pencils. And later on, like I was introducing the Kahoot and all these tools, like there's the same questions with choices. There's so much interested and the time was like keep on going. In fact, they don't want to go for recess outside. They were like constantly working on the multiple choices and working as a team. It was like so much learning I can see during that time, so it's really really
Right.
effective.
That's right.
And moving on, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Miss Anuzi. It was really helpful. And moving
You're
on to Ms. Kritik, what kind of policies or school level initiative help ensure these technologies are accessible and effectively integrated in special education classroom?
First of all, thanks for your question, Miss Kumudha. So, from my point of view, I would say that, technology has been a bridge probably in most of the for children with special needs. It's been a bridge to, communicate when they're non-verbal, especially when there's a technology involved and they are able to express them. We could see a lot of changes to their stress level and things. And even with teachers, they feel
Mhm.
more relaxed to communicate with the child, when they're not able to verbally communicate, especially when children in autism or something. So when they're
Mhm.
not able to verbally express themselves, technology has
Yeah.
been a bridge to communicate between the child and the teacher, even with parents, especially, right?
Yeah.
So being said that, so first of all, when a technology has been introduced, as we all know, it has to cater to all the students. It shouldn't be only to a typically developing kid. It should cater to all kids, right? So that's something that we have to have back in our mind, so that
Mhm.
it's easy and it's viable for all kids to explore and do it. So
Mhm.
being said that, so first of all, I think adoption of universal learning designs will help,
Mhm.
probably to set a standard to both a verbal kid and a non-verbal kid. So
Yeah.
including all those universal designs will help in a better engagement of the children with special needs can engage in
Mhm.
a more probable way. And
Mhm.
second one, what I would suggest is, we should have some kind of a technology equity policy so that it's accessible to all the kids. There
Mhm.
shouldn't be any, like, this technology is only for kids who has a typical development. So
Mhm.
it has to have some kind of a equal policy so that it goes to all kids, and each and every kid in a classroom is part
Mhm.
of that technology, right? So that
Yeah.
has to be taken forward. And probably all saying that, we should also have, when we are procuring a technology, we have to look onto its accessibility, whether
Mhm.
it is suitable for a kid with autism, whether it can be used in a special need community, it can be used. So that's something that we have to look onto. And also, what we can do is, already the kids in the classroom have their IEPs, right? So
Yeah.
when we use the technology at the classroom level, it will be very helpful if it's been correlated with their IEPs. So we have
Exactly.
individual education plans for each kid. So a technology can be used in a proper way when it has been included with their IEPs. So that
Mhm.
can serve the community as well. That makes easier work for the teachers and the parents, right?
Yeah.
So these are some of the strategies, I think, that can be used by the school setup, or we can, to see the effectiveness of the technology. These are some kind of points that can be used, that can
Yeah.
be used by
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
teachers.
it's really helpful like when you have a team like who work with all these policies and they are like willingnessly they're introducing and explaining to the special education teachers. It's really helpful, working with the these kind of texts. And it's like a collaborative, like when you get used to it and you spread it to the next upcoming teachers. Yeah, it's really amazing thing. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And Ms. Claudia, could you please share an example where students with special needs they co-created their assessment using technology, and what was the impact that you think that's the using the technology?
Yes, of course. So I did support a learner last year in school, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important to provide options. So I remember a teacher said, "Okay, we're going to work on essay writing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be pencil." And his immediate reaction is like, "No, like I don't want to do this." I'm gonna ask why. He's like, "Well, my writing's messy. Like it's hard. It's like I'm a slow writer. I type faster." So the
Mm-hmm.
teacher was like, "Okay, why don't we give you an option of like typing it on your computer on Google Docs?" And he was able to like formulate again lots of paragraphs versus like if you
Mm-hmm.
give him a piece of paper, it's like less writing because it's just harder for him to write, right? When you're like you think faster than you write. So he's kind of like that. He's very fast, but he's a very fast typer. So the
Yeah.
option was very beneficial for him. And another example, using him as an example, the same thing happened where they had an art class and they had to do art. Okay, so art is very hands-on, right? You got to use like paint, you got to use colors, very hands-on. And again, he was very, he's like, I love art, but like I want to express it in a different way. And when he asked how, he's like, can I try to do digital art? And at first we were like, the teacher was like, how is this gonna work? But he ended up making it work. He got Canva, he was able to like, he had an iPad. So instead of like using like a mouse, he was able to use his fingers and he like created images. They were doing like 3D line art. So we're like, why not? Why can't he do like 3D art? He's still
Amazing.
using his fingers, right? It's just he's not holding like maybe a pencil or a utensil, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it worked well, and he did really good. He was motivated because like honestly for him art was very aversive because he doesn't like the mess, the very like touching different things. Like that's just the type of person he is, right? But the
Yeah, I
fact
just want to add on, like I remember like I was working with the same kind of similarities.
Mhm.
Where a student like he doesn't like to get mess on his work. He feels
Yeah.
like so much perfect, like he always erases work over and
Yes.
over. For those
Yeah.
kind of students, like this is really helpful, you know. They can
Exactly.
erase, they
And
can tell it.
I'm glad you brought that because he was actually a perfectionist. Like he is a
Mhm.
very he was like gifted. He's very intelligent, but again, like he with the mistakes. So with art, when you make a mistake, it's hard to get rid of that
Yeah,
mistake because it
yeah,
messes up your whole art. And then he would crumple it and throw it out and get a new one, get frustrated, and you
yeah,
would not want
yeah.
to do it. But with the digital art, easy.
Mm-hmm.
You can just erase it, go back, undo, no problem,
Yeah,
right? And he was
yeah.
still able to like he didn't have an advantage. Like he literally did the same art that everyone else did. He just used an iPad, right? So
Wow.
I think that was very helpful, and I'm glad you brought that up because especially if you're a perfectionist,
Mhm.
there has to be another option, and like he never had that option for years, and he was in grade 7, so he's like, this is
Wow.
the first time I did digital art, and he's like, I'm so happy, I'm so proud of it. So it's like, wow, like imagine he had that option a while ago, he wouldn't be so like
Exactly.
aversive to these things,
It's
right?
so
So
helpful. Yeah, this technology is making our life easier, right? Like moving forward, it's
100%.
really
Yeah.
important.
For the teacher and the student because it builds a like it's less like, how to say it, like it's less problematic, right? You're able to like help them out. You're able to like kind of like you're kind of adjusting yourself to them, right? You're not making them like do it this way. Like you're still the expectation is still the same, but if there's a different way you can do this, why not, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not
that's
like you're getting the easy way out. It's just like you have another option to do it. Whether you're writing or typing it, you're still doing the work, right?
yeah,
So
it's true. Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Claudia. And yeah, as a special need educator, Ms. Anusi, how can interactive tools like gamifying, quizzes, audios, visual prompts, sometimes like in today's life, there's AI is being dominated, right? Like wherever you go, like it's easier. It makes your life very quick and effective. And what kind of feedback that you could help your primary special education students take ownership of their own learning?
Yeah, thanks for the question. From experience, how they take ownership of their learning is when you see them being very engaged
Mm-hmm.
through these games and quizzes. There's an increased engagement through these games. So, like you mentioned, tools like the Kahoot and quizzes, make the students more motivated to participate. For example, a student with ADHD may
Mm-hmm.
stay focused longer in a game-based assessment than on a worksheet. And then you also have the personalized learning pathways with AI feedback, where you have these students are just, with their difficulty-based performance, helping students progress at their own pace, and they also feel ownership of their growth.
Yeah.
So we also have immediate feedback and self-correction, right?
Mm-hmm.
To know how
Mm-hmm.
to take ownership of their learning, the interactive platforms that provides them the instant results, allowing the students to reflect, they retry, and also improve instead of waiting for teacher correction. So I've had that experience to where, students actually take the initiative, to do so much more because they have these tools that helps them to actually do better because at the same time they're learning and it's fun for them. So we also have the voice and video responses for student agency. So there are platforms like the Seesaw and Flip that allow students to explain their thinking through audio or video, helping learners with dyslexia or with writing difficulties show mastery in their own ways. So these are just different ways that these students can actually take ownership of their learning. They can also select how to respond, drawing, text, or video, giving them autonomy in how they demonstrate learning, right? So they're very proud of themselves and say, yeah, I can do this, even without the teacher's assistance. So they have all the tools that they need to be able to help them take ownership. And then they're so proud of what, the work that they're able to do. So we also have the visual supports for comprehension, audio visual prompts, images, animations, read aloud features, which helps to reduce barriers for students with language or processing delays, enabling them to independently understand tasks. The goal for these students with special needs is to help them to independently achieve their goals, achieve their task. So with these tools, they can actually have that confidence, helping them reach to the successes that is things that they really love to do. So these games also helps them to build their self-esteem. Typically for those who struggle with low self-esteem, or you see them build up their self-esteem and they're very happy. So these are really and also peer collaboration and ownership. We have interactive tools, these tools that often help group plays or sharing. For example, the Kahoot team mode netpod pools empower students to contribute to collective success. And you see them also, track their progress for self-reflection. Many platforms shows dashboards or progress bars. Students can visually track their improvements, seeing their accuracy rise in prodigy, fostering self-awareness and responsibility. So it helps them as well to take responsibility of the learning, because they see the results of the things that they're able to accomplish, and you see that they are very happy. So, and they're eager to learn even more. So we have the accessibility features that foster independence, which we actually have shared earlier. You see them, being able to independently do their work even without a teacher assistance. So with this, these students are really, they take ownership of their learning. Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, yeah, as you said, the gamifying quiz, audio, visual prompts, and all, like a wonderful tool to run the special education team. And
Yeah.
I always wonder, Ms. Kriti, I know you have experience going to different schools, right? So, what are some strategies you could share when schools can use to measure their effectiveness of tech used while formative assessment for special education and learners over the time?
Okay. So first of all, what I would suggest is, first of all, we need to have a progress monitoring dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all about the child using the technology. How are they mastering the skills, right? So over a period of time, we need to have some kind of an assessment so that we know that, okay, the child has mastered to use the technology, and we can be confident telling the parents or everyone that, this is a way to communicate with the child. Especially being a communication therapist, our goal is to have a better communication skill. The child has to be understood by the teacher, by the parents, and everyone, and the child has to understand what the teacher is saying, so vice versa. So what
Yeah.
we can do is, we can have some kind of a measuring scale, measuring dashboards, that over a period of, like, after every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if we have some kind of a check that the child can go through, and as a teacher, as a therapist, I can also know that, okay, the child has mastered the skills. Now it's time for me to move to the next skill.
Yeah.
Right. So those kind of monitoring dashboards will help the kids, help the teachers or the communication therapists to know that, okay, it's time to go to the next level of teaching. And
Yeah.
also we can also do some kind of comparative strategies using a technology based and the, traditional paper and pencil based, tests. So we could see that which one the child is able to perform more easier, which is more easier for the child to, you know, communicate themselves, verbally put themselves. So those kind of comparing traditional paper pen based test or using a technology based games or whatever apps that we use that can be used to measure the effectiveness of a technology that has been used by the child. And we can also have feedback loops because the child is working not only with one kind of it's a team function. A teacher is working, a therapist is working, we have an occupational team in with us, we have an
Yeah.
ABA teachers who support
Mhm.
us in different ways, and also we support we take help of the parents and caregivers who generally
Mhm.
spend a lot of time with the kids. So we can
Yeah.
get feedback from all these loops to know that, okay, this has been effective for this particular child, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to children with special needs. Unless
Mhm.
until we know how it's helpful for the child, uh, you know
Exactly.
we cannot align anything with that. So if we get feedbacks, we can align the apps, or we can do what is more acute for the specific child, right? So because it's different working with a typically developing child and working with the special need children with special need, it's different.
Yeah,
And whatever you do for them, it has to be tailor made. You cannot
that's true.
you cannot put what we have used for a typically developing child, right? So getting
Mhm.
more kind of feedbacks from teachers and the caregivers, I think we can see the effectiveness of a technology for these children.
Yeah, that's true. That's wonderful, like you well said. For example, like we usually, as you said, like we do like formative assessment before, introducing new concepts. Like we wanted to know that the child is really understood the concept or understood the tools to use it. So it's really helpful, like moving on to for the new concepts. It's amazing that you brought out the very important points. And Miss Claudia, like I have few points I think I have. Yeah. So what are the main technical or design consideration when creating assessment tools for younger special education? Oh no, no, that's for Miss Anosi. Sorry. Miss Claudia, so how can teachers be trained and supported to effectively use these tools while ensuring inclusivity and accessibility? Like how you can include, for the mainstream.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I think it's important to start down from the foundations and like teachers understanding neurodiversity and like how everyone has different learning needs and not just putting everyone on the same boat. Like a lot of teachers like to think, oh, we're all kind of the same, which is like, I guess we're being inclusive, but we have different learning needs. We all have different strengths and different things that we can work on, right? So I think
Yeah.
just starting that, like, teaching teachers like, yeah, technology can actually support engagement, representation, expression, because maybe some teachers don't have that buy-in. So I think what we can do is they can watch, observe, and see how other teachers model it. So for example, maybe a teacher has no idea how to use a Blooket or a Kahoot, and she's like, I don't know, let me see, does this work? So
Yeah.
she can observe another teacher doing it and say, oh, I see the engagement, I see the motivation. Okay, how does this work? So like having modules, maybe like training them on how to use this or how to use an AAC device. And even with that, we can even try to do like hands-on, like practicing how to use it. So we can do like mock trials, like, okay, if a student was asking me this, how would I respond to them using the AAC device? Or even like trying to collaborate with other educators if that's possible, like getting workshops, like talking to speech therapists, talking to
Mhm.
behavior therapists, other teachers, special education teachers, like just having a conversation and saying, oh, what works in your classroom? What doesn't work in my classroom, right? And seeing like what could be working.
Mhm.
And then also to be more inclusive, right? I think like trying to get apps and websites that could promote that, right? Because like
Mhm.
with Pocket, like what we mentioned before, the Kahoot, everyone's kind of involved, everyone's in on it. It's not like the student is getting like a different type
Yeah.
of like format, different questions. They're still involved, right? So finding apps that like everyone can learn together.
Mhm.
And also I think like coaching, modeling, and even like if possible, like teachers can pair each other and have like tech buddies for like a week and be like, okay, like this is how I'm using it, like just showing each other, right? Learning from each
Yeah,
other.
that's
I think that would
interesting.
be
Yeah.
I think that would be very helpful. And just, of course, like shifting that mindset and just saying, like, this is a tool. It's not just like, a tablet's not just used to have fun and it's not a distraction. If you can use it effectively, it can be effective, right? So
Yeah.
just using it in a good way and learning how to use it in a good way and not using it to be a distraction, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I remember like what we were discussing today. It really shows the empowering of primary school students in special education through innovative tech-based and formative assessment. And it's not only possible, but it's very essential. So what are the some like I want to share some importance of students centered approach, some of the roles or assistive technologies in making assessment, and it's very inclusive. So it needs to be like collaborated among teachers and parents, as you said, like very specialist. And it really values of flexibility, and it creates like a creativity and designing formative assessment as well. So yeah, and I would like to share like one of my recent experience from a student, like where he was like a really disorganized in the early stage of schools, and what we introduced like a organizer where he has to go set the timing according to that, like he knows like what to do next. So it created like a improved in time management, and he was very much engaged and more aware of how to spend time and learn to prioritize what he really wants to do. So it gives the better understanding and better organizing skill, which reduced his stress and anxiety, knowing what he has to do for the next, right? So he felt more control and aligning with the mainstream students, and it increased the accountability and accessibility for what he wants to do. So it took took him like a ownership and responsible for becoming a schedule to serve as a constant reminder, more productivity, and also it boosted the confidence in his independency of working. So overall it improved the academic performance in his the entire academic. So that tool was really helpful for, as you said, like organizing things and all. And with that, for today's takeaway, like we were discussing on how assistive and adaptive technology can be leveraged to design innovative and inclusive formative assessment practice, and some of the ways to foster students' agency by co-creating assessment with learners. Supported by relevant educational technologies. And also we have understood like strategies for aligning formative assessment approaches with a diverse cognitive and learning profile of neurodiverse students as well. Um, so yeah, and with that, like I'm going to officially close today's session, and I would like to truly thank all the panelists for their insights, and the audience for their engagement, and the organizer for making the session possible. With that, we officially close today's panel. Thank you so much once again for being part of this important conversation. I truly appreciate for your timing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.